will liberals ever admit how they were wrong about Trump?
All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, folks, not sure what happened here this past week, but I am sorely disappointed. I mean, I have been promised a fascist authoritarian coup directed by Vladimir Putin himself for 4 years now, and I'm getting a little impatient.
Did you guys know coups happen in one day?
See how it all goes down. In fact, I was told this election wouldn't even happen because Trump would cancel it or at least postpone it indefinitely. I was told that an elaborate plot was being hatched with scary words like disinformation and misinformation and
wow, disinformation and misinformation. That never happens in politics. You know what we should do? We should just laugh at everything Trump threatens and be like, that's not even real. You're not going to do that. And when he does do it, we just laugh even more because he's not going to go further, right?
Fakes to rob poor innocent Joe Biden of his rightful victory. I was informed in no uncertain terms that Attorney General Bill Barr had masterminded a devious plot to confiscate ballot boxes, or that Trump would force the FDA to inject all Democrats with toxic hydroxychloroquine or something.
This is so hyperbolic, and it really reduces the threat of what's actually happening so much.
It's hard to see how this, a hastily arranged presser in the parking lot of Four Seasons Landscaping, fits into their evil genius plan. Sure, Trump is launching legal challenges.
Okay. They're saying because this press conference at the Four Seasons landscaping business, because that was so disoriented, now they cannot orchestrate some type of coup or try to do it. The point about these things isn't that they're smart in doing it. The point is that they're willing to try and do it. They're willing to fight liberal democracy and try to throw away votes. They're willing to do it. They're willing to mobilize, 30% of our country against the democratic process, against American citizens.
Refusing to concede, but even state media outlet Fox News doesn't really seem to have their heart in the game.
We want every legal vote to be counted, and we want every illegal vote to be...
I just think we have to be very clear. She's charging, the other side is welcoming fraud and welcoming illegal voting. Unless she has more details to back that up, I can't in good countenance continue showing you this. I want to make sure that maybe they do have something to back that up, but that's an explosive charge to make, that the other side is effectively rigging and cheating. If she does bring proof of that...
That was illegal, by the way. Government workers, according to the Hatch Act, cannot do anything in that capacity.
Of course, we'll take you back. So far, she has started saying right at the outset, welcoming fraud, welcoming illegal voting. Not so fast.
Yeah, put it in the on Discord. I made a new text group to put links in.
One of the greatest lies of the Trump era was that this dude was remotely up to the task of being some Hitlerian figure. Now here we stand with every network, including Fox News, having called the race for Biden. And how has our orange Mussolini reacted? By doing what he always does, saying a bunch of ridiculous crap.
He's just orange Mussolini. You know, when the liberals say orange man bad as their only argument, her excuse is literally orange man. Oh, he's just a funny guy. He's just joking, right?
On a bunch of stupid tweets.
He's too dumb to do it.
Not a whole heck of a lot else. It turns out that Matt Taibbi was exactly right when he wrote this. The words we see slapped on Trump most often, like fascist and authoritarian, nowhere near describe what he really is, and I don't mean that as a compliment. It's been proven across 4 years that Trump lacks the attention span or ambition required to implement a truly dictatorial regime. He might not have a moral problem with the idea, but 2 minutes into the plan, he'd leave the room, phone in hand, to throw on a robe and watch himself on Fox and Friends over a cheeseburger.
Wait, isn't this how the liberals she's attacking, these liberals, see Trump as a guy who just watches Fox News and, eats a cheeseburger? Isn't that the big joke that Stephen Colbert uses against Donald Trump, and she's using it as justification for saying he's not dangerous?
There's no constitutional crisis coming with dueling sets of electors, let alone some military-backed coup in which Trump attempts to stay in the White House beyond his term. The latest terrors gripping resistance liberals are rather revealing, and frankly, just how pathetic they are. We're supposed to be deeply concerned for the future of democracy because Trump fired the former Raytheon lobbyist who was running the Department of Defense. The horrors. And he may fire the former George W. Bush admin guy who's running the FBI. Outrageous.
So Trump is taking back regular, establishment figures. He's kicking them out to replace them with sycophants who will do anything that he desires. Trump actually is basically espousing his entire cabinet this week and replacing them with cronies who will only agree with him. He's getting them in as if he is running for, or as if he won a second term. He is getting a cabinet that will be complicit in a coup when he wants to try it. This is a really bad thing versus some normal neocons who still stand for a liberal democracy. Those are big differences.
My favorite, though, is that all of their elaborate fascist coup plots have actually collapsed down to this. Some GSA Trump appointee is refusing to sign a letter acknowledging Biden's election. Inconceivable! What if they have to wait a week or two before they can decide in earnest whether they're giving Pete Buttigieg VA or UN ambassador? The country hangs in the balance.
I would take Pete Buttigieg on my campaign over Krystal Ball in a second.
The people who have stoked the most outrageous fears about Donald Trump have been completely wrong. His words are outrageous, of course, and certainly his administration has engaged in some truly damaging acts with consequences to people and the planet, which will reverberate for years to come. The cruelty at the border, orphaning children, opening the Alaskan wilderness to logging, accelerating the transfer of wealth to the top, and of course, outright lying about coronavirus to save the stock market. But those in the media who have terrified millions with their Donald Trump ghost stories and murder mysteries, they destroyed the ability to tell the real story of
This is what she always does too. She labels a bunch of shit Donald Trump actually did, and then it always ends with, but, the liberals are also worse, by the way, or the media is also worse, but.
Worst parts of the Trump administration. Not to mention that their unhinged conspiracy theories certainly turned off some of the voters that they might have won over with a different approach. Allow me to save you the suspense of what's going to happen next. Trump is going to tweet some more and do some more pretend legal actions that are laughably incompetent at best and possibly completely non-existent. He'll never fully admit defeat, which will, of course, enrage all the powers that be to no end. And, of course, he should concede. It would be good for the country if he did. But it's also not quite the same as the military-backed coup or outright authoritarian.
A coup doesn't need to be a fascist leader menacingly standing over the population with military generals. That's not what a coup needs to be. There could be people coups. There could be a coup of any proportion. It's literally just a term for overturning democracy and seizing illegal power in government. That's literally what a coup means. Krystal Ball, she used to be good. I think she used to be good, and I got this with like Jimmy Dore and stuff too. I was talking a lot, if you guys saw the other videos about Dore, how I used to really like him. I think it was because, when you're supporting Bernie in a primary, it's easy to say both sides are equally bad and, get along with that. Like, oh, corporate Dems are bad and corporate Republicans are bad. But once you have this system where we're choosing between corporate Dems and a fascist, she doesn't know how to adapt to that situation. She keeps on doing the both sidesism, and that's where we end up losing her. And she's so smug about it. And Kyle got a little bit of this, Kyle Kalinske, but he's not nearly as bad. Jimmy Dore definitely has this in him.
End of democracy that we've been repeatedly promised. Instead, when the time comes, he won't admit defeat, but he will leave. And it's very likely he'll go start his new media company where he'll continue to chirp from the sidelines to millions of his supporters who, by the way, will never believe that Joe Biden actually won fair and square.
There's no indication that he will leave. And by the way, having a section of our population that will never accept the democratic process ever again is very damaging. Oh, yeah, Sarah's a real one. She's being very generous on Patreon.
Of course, the media will do their best to convince these millions that the election results were accurate. Quite the opposite of their role last time around when they spent hours and years trying to convince the public that the results of 2016 were not really fair or just thanks to Russian meddling. And I will admit, it is indeed a dangerous state of affairs that the media has so destroyed their credibility over years that tens of millions would trust the evidence-free word of the ridiculous Trump over the assurances of elite media. The failures.
She's underestimating the power of a cult of personality. It's not simply the media's fault that everyone believes Trump. Like I said before, we literally have sections of this country that believe ghost hunting shows are real. And like Pawn Stars, they believe that's real. They believe all the National Geographic or whatever survival shows are real. They probably think the survival game show is real. Or a Survivor, is it called? That game show, they probably think it's all real. Wipeout is real. Never mind. I don't want to slander Wipeout. I missed that show. But like, our people have a bad job, or they have, a low skill level at differentiating real from fake because of our reality TV show culture. And the media is definitely a part of that.
Of the wild conspiracies of the Trump era to actually materialize will just be one more nail in their coffin. And by that I mean, all the people who got Trump the most wrong will be greatly rewarded with big raises and primetime shows. And that is a truly scary story of Trump-era America.
So the truly scary story is the people getting network shows. And yeah, saying the entire process is fake and trying to throw out literally, I think, over 1 million ballots, disenfranchise all those voters because of Twitter conspiracy theories, and have the AG investigate all of those separately and try to find the right judges to overturn ballots based on technicalities or whatever. That's totally different from saying I'm going to take these legal processes as far as they can go, like Bush and Gore did. Totally different scenario.
However, no sooner did I finish writing this radar that a memo went out from Bill Barr that everybody freaked out about. Oh my, he's directing them to investigate election fraud and there's no proof, etc. And I mean, look, obviously he's trying to mess around to please Trump, but you go and read the memo and all it says is if there is election fraud, you can investigate it. That's it. There's no like directing anyone to do anything. It's just like, hey, if there's election fraud, you can investigate it.
Well, what's wrong with that? I mean, don't you welcome an investigation? Like, I'm sorry.
Well, the problem is they're going off of conspiracy theories and also viral Twitter posts of videos from like Project Veritas. If you legitimize investigations based on the premise of a random conspiracy group saying them, that is very, very bad, actually. You can lead down many rabbit holes doing that.
Sorry. Look, they don't just make up facts, or I mean, maybe they used to, but if they do, we'll certainly call it out here. Yeah. It actually won't be that difficult in order to disprove if they release some report. And this is the part which is driving me crazy about all of this, which is that the truth is that these people, the media and so much more, after Russiagate, after Hillary, after fake news, after Russian disinformation, etc., they have no bearing to tell anybody not to question an election or others. And do they have any idea?
Okay, they did not say the last election was fake. Hillary Clinton literally conceded the day after the freaking vote was counted. Literally on Wednesday, she conceded the election, and she said she lost. Saying that there was Russian disinformation doesn't say anything about the votes being cast. It doesn't say they're illegal. It doesn't say they're fraudulent. It doesn't get an entire base of people to think the democratic process is fake. They literally said that Russia was using disinformation and misinformation, which is 100% true. Democrats over-sensationalized it, but come on, you can't just ignore factual evidence like that. Like, that happened. There were committees evaluating this, and they all, bipartisan committees, and they all came out with the same result.
Why
Holy
70% of Republicans don't
not all a
trust
joke.
the election results and don't trust them whenever they're trying to walk them through everything that happened. They just want you to sit down and shut up and accept results. And look, I don't accept the fact that there was massive, widespread electoral fraud. But I think there was probably some fraud, as there always is in an election. And if we want to uncover that, and if we go and we find that in a DOJ report or something, fine by me. Isn't that a better thing? That would actually help a lot of people accept the results of the election. And yet they just don't want to go down this road. And it speaks to something that you pointed out, which is that this whole conception of Trump was wrong from the beginning.
Good night, Erica.
And all of it was wrong. You did a radar here a couple months ago. You're like, this guy's as American as apple pie. Mm-hmm. And it's true. And the truth is they just don't want to reflect on their failures, because that's what it is. He's a living embodiment of their failure.
That's it. I mean, look, there's been no evidence of any significant fraud. And the names, they had this list of names in Nevada that they were like, oh my God, these people voted and they don't live in the state.
She thinks it's all a joke, doesn't she? She thinks it's all a big game. Like Trump, oh, he's a silly man. He's a very silly man. He can't be smart enough to do this. He can't orchestrate a coup. Donald Trump is making this, independently of anyone else, making these decisions. He doesn't have a whole freaking team of white nationalists helping him or anything.
Turned out to be military members. Like, all of their crap has been ridiculous.
And freaking Pompeo, the Secretary of State, came out today and said there is going to be a transition of power to Donald Trump. Did you guys see that video from today? It was pretty popular because it's really freaking scary that the Secretary of State would say that. How do you spell Pompeo? Pompeo. Okay, apparently there it is.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right, we're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. The world should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful today, and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th, a minute afternoon, will also be successful.
He did sound like he was joking, and Erica just said in chat he backtracked on Hannity today. But this tone has been reciprocated throughout the entire Trump administration, throughout the entire, our institutions. And, you could always say, oh, these are all jokes, they're just kidding. But when you do it this much, it's not a joke. If someone keeps on making the same joke about you every single freaking day, like, oh, you're pretty fat or anything like that, they keep on saying it, they mean that shit, dude. They mean it.
So far. And if that changes, we will certainly bring it to you here. But that's the point. There's never any reflection of like, wonder why they don't trust us anymore. Must be because they're wrong and they're stupid and like,
yeah, haha, JK, ... unless.
It's all on them. Or, hey, wonder how we got this like crazy, insane person president of the United States. Wonder how that happened. Must be because it's all the voters' fault. Like it's all on them. Nothing to do with us, nothing to do with the fact that we got the Iraq War wrong, that we got the financial crisis wrong, that we spent years on Russia, nothing to do with that. Let me just, get my raise in my new primetime show and tell you more about how wrong and terrible you are. That to me, look, Trump is not going to do some military coup, and none of these people are ever going to admit that they were wrong, by the way, in their assessment of him. And
There's never a cost.
Never.
Wait, admit they were wrong in what assessment of Donald Trump? He literally did everything people predicted. He did more than, like, if you said in 2016 all the stuff Donald Trump, if you told people the stuff Donald Trump would actually end up doing, they wouldn't believe you in 2016. We've been slowly, gradually easing into what's happening with Trump now. It was never normalized until now. Like, what are they talking
in their daily,
about?
like, oh my God, it's the end of democracy. And that stuff, there is a cost to society because you have millions and millions of Americans who felt that the country was literally at risk every day. But the real crisis is this slower moving erosion of trust in absolutely every institution. It is why you have all these conspiracy theories flourishing. It is why you have, these pitched battles sometimes in the streets. It is why things feel so
Wait,
ugly.
Trump passed liberal policies? What liberal policies do you think Donald Trump passed? What do you mean?
Ugly and so torn apart. And the media is as complicit in that as absolutely anybody else, and they will never see that or admit
They
that.
lie to you every single day. I mean, how they're like, oh, there's no elite conspiracy. You ever heard of Jeffrey Epstein? You ever heard of Jeffrey Epstein?
What?
Like, you ever heard of the Iraq War? The media doesn't cover up lies. It's documented.
No one
Go
says
look
that.
at Judy Miller. Look at the stuff that they fed her and that she published in the New York Times and that was pumped all over cable news. I mean, these are facts. This really did happen, and it did. I'm not gaslit.
What did
I've
happen?
been gaslit.
Wait,
and
what?
so many others have too, because they just want you to believe them, and I can see them in their preening coverage of the networks. I saw Jake Tapper yesterday being like, for any Trump person out there who's not accepting the concession, like, don't you at least accept that you'll have reputational damage whenever you're out there in the marketplace? It's like, what are you, on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission now? Like,
Wait, take the guns away. Don't worry about due process. Worry about it later. Do you mean red flag laws? That's not a liberal thing. I don't know any Democrats advocating for direct red flag laws. Red flag laws are just if you report somebody and you're deemed as like a threat by your community, won't they just say like, oh, we could take your guns now? That's not direct gun legislation banning any ownership of any type of guns. I know a lot of Republicans that are for laws like that.
what are you doing? Trying to set up gatekeepers and making it so that you can't be employable if you don't go along with Jake Tapper's standards? That's insane. We can't live in a country like that, especially after Russiagate and so much more. And I just see this happening everywhere, and it's just elite decline, institutional decline all across the map.
Yeah, and that is the scariest, much scarier than any tweet that Donald Trump is going to send out. Is that
It's just a
trajectory
tweet, guys. It's just a tweet. Donald Trump is just kidding. He's just memeing all the time.
of American life.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot more rising for you after
Oh, the
that.
stream's getting jumpy. Let's see. Well, this is over anyway.